Okay, why are you taking French class? So, this is something we're going to investigate today and explain to you a little bit about the concept of proficiency. So, here's a little prompt. So, at lunch, you invite Cameron, a new student, to sit with you and your friends. Cameron asks, "What's fun to do on the weekends around here?" So, I want you to tell him all about it. So, usually I have cards in class that we pass out to groups. Obviously, we can't do that like we used to. So instead, I'm just going to present to you the different levels of proficiency. And this is basically how you are going to be getting graded in French class this year. So basically, you as sixth graders are coming in and you're at what we call the novice low level of proficiency. Novice means new, and obviously low, you're just coming in, you're just starting. You're in this category for a very, very short period, maybe the first week or two, and then you're going to be moving on. So basically, if you were described as a proficiency level as being novice low, this is what would happen. So you would describe that prompt only using words, not sentences. Try to think of the 10 most important words to describe it. There can be spelling errors and wrong words like a young kid would make. So this is typically something, for the native speakers in France. This is for very, very, very young children who are just learning to speak and just learning to write. You're older than that. However, in the French language, you're not. So here's an example of a novice low proficiency learner. So remember, the prompt was, what is fun to do here over the weekend? So if I was novice low, I would just make a list: sleep, sports, movies, eat, video games, friends, read, TV, family, yard work. So here is just a basic list of activities. One word. As you see, some of them have spelling errors, and that's okay because a novice low proficiency learner, this is what you're able to do at this point. Okay. Now, in another week or so, or maybe even sooner, you're going to be moving to the novice mid range. And a lot of you are going to spend a lot of time here at the novice mid proficiency range during sixth grade. A lot of you could move up to novice high, which we're going to look at eventually. But most of this year, you're going to be novice mid. So basically, in keeping with that same prompt, what is fun to do around here on the weekends, describe it using simple phrases with 3 words or less. And it can be lists. There can be spelling errors and awkward wording like me like. You don't always need a verb. So this is what I came up with to describe that prompt. Me like sleep. Me play sports. I see movies. Me eat food. Me video games play. Me hang friends. Books I read. Me watch TV. Family time. No like yard work. So here in the novice mid range, you're not putting everything together 100% correctly, but you're increasing your vocabulary and you can add in some verbs there, okay? And you're adding more details, but it might not be 100% correct, and that's okay, all right? Now, the next proficiency level is novice high. So some of you, as I mentioned before, some of you might reach this level in sixth grade, but maybe just not be able to do it consistently. Novice mid to novice high is usually where the seventh graders are. But basically, you describe it. So the prompt again, using simple sentences with few details. Use I like, it has, and it is. Use and with. So now you're getting a little more literate, you're using a little higher level of proficiency. So I like to sleep in. I play sports. I see movies. I eat food at restaurants. I play video games. I hang with my friends. I read books. I watch TV. I spend time with my family. I don't like yard work. So basically, you've taken that same list, but now you're putting it together in sentences that make sense and are grammatically correct. And you're not having as many spelling and grammar errors. Okay. So that's novice high. So a lot of you could reach this year, consistently or inconsistently. But basically that's novice high. So you'll spend most of, the end of sixth grade here, mostly through seventh grade, at this level. Then the last one that you see while you're at Smith School is what we call intermediate low. So, that same prompt again. So, describe it using sentences with details. Explain your opinion with because and but. Ask a question. So, these are some things you'll be able to do at the intermediate low level. So, I just kind of made up this little paragraph to kind of show you. So, on the weekends, I like to sleep in because I must wake up early for school during the week. I play sports because I like hanging out with my friends. When I spend time with my family, we go out to eat in restaurants and do yard work, which I don't like. I enjoy seeing movies and playing video games with my friends. When I am alone, I watch TV and read. So that's an example of what an intermediate low person can say or what they can write. Okay, so obviously that's a much bigger, much larger proficiency than what you saw at the novice low level. So this is basically how you're going to be graded and work through the different levels. So basically, we're starting with the most simple to the most complex, all right, which just is natural. Everything builds upon each other. So, it's not like you can take a test on a time period in social studies and then you move on to something new and then you can forget the other stuff. So basically, everything you learn builds upon each other. So you can't, learn how to say I, you, and he and then just forget that later on. That will continue. You'll still be using those words and phrases. Okay. All right. So language proficiency is the ability of an individual to speak or perform in an acquired language. So the acquired language that you're looking to become proficient in is French. All right. When you read or listen, you will understand the main idea and some details. All right. So when we do a lot of reading activities, we do a lot of listening activities. So I'm not expecting you to be able to understand every single word you see, in a piece of writing. Or when you're listening to something to understand every spoken word. However, you will start getting the main idea and some details. And some examples you'll see are from signs, reviews, social media, profiles, schedules, and much more. Okay. All right. When you talk or write, you will be able to give basic information about yourself and others. All right. You will be able to ask for some everyday things you want, and you will be able to give your opinion about familiar topics. So, those are some of the main things when you're talking or writing that you will be able to do. Okay. All right. So, I have a little contest here, if anybody can guess this. So, the only way to begin speaking a new language is to begin speaking what? Take a guess. I'll give you a second to think. What goes in that blank? All right. Nobody ever gets this. So, the only way to begin speaking a new language is to begin speaking badly. All right. I would rather you speak incorrectly than not speak at all. Because if you don't speak at all, you're never going to increase your proficiency and you're never going to get better. So even though you might not be perfect when you're starting to speak and write in a foreign language, you need to do it. All right. Practice makes perfect. All right. So how do you get better at a sport? What do? You practice. How do you get better at playing an instrument? What do? You practice. How do you get better at playing a game? What do? Practice. How will you get better at French? You must practice. All right. So the more you practice, the better you're going to get, and the more you'll improve your proficiency. How will my language be measured? So, how do I know what my grade is? So, what I have here are examples of two different rubrics on which we grade you on a consistent basis. So one is an interpersonal rubric. When we went over the class expectations, I explained to you that an interpersonal task is a speaking task between two people, two or more people. So it's a back and forth kind of conversation. It could be letter writing, it could just be speaking, having a chat. So let me just show you what the rubric looks like. I'm not going to go into too many details, but this is basically how you're going to be graded for marking period 1 for 6th grade. So as you notice here, most of the categories are in that novice low level because you're going to be there, in the first marking period, and then it moves to novice mid. So some of you that catch on quickly, you might be moving into that novice mid category within the first marking period. So basically, these are the grades you can receive. So I'm looking, what language do I use based on your vocabulary skills? Structure and function is, are you able to put things together, use some proper grammar? How well am I understood? Comprehension, if you're speaking, even if you make mistakes, can I understand what you're trying to say? And then how well do you understand my partner or the prompt? So, if your partner says something to you, can you answer them back? All right. Or are you confused and you don't understand it? So that is basically how you are going to be graded in the first marking period, interpersonally. Now, let's just move on to presentational. So presentational is a task where you have to present something. It could be something that you present to the class on your own verbally. It could be a project that you do. It could be a writing sample, that you are presenting something to me, but it's basically just you. It's not a back and forth conversation. So it's just something that you're presenting to me. So let me just pull up this rubric just so you can take a little look to see how you're going to be marked. So very similar to the interpersonal, you see most of the grades are in that novice low category. And as you move throughout the year, those categories will move more to the right, okay, as your proficiency increases. So again, on a presentational test, we look at your vocabulary, structure and function, your verbs, your grammar. How well am I understood? Your comprehensibility, do I understand what you're writing? And then basically your task completion. So if I asked you to do, write about this, and you only included one thing, then you're not doing the whole task. And obviously there's some other things on there as well. But I'll be showing you these and working with you while we're in class, and you'll become very familiar with these rubrics, okay? And it'll be simple for you to come and see your grade and know how you're doing. Okay. All right. So that is how you will receive grades in this class for the most part. All right, so this is a nice little visual that I'd like to show you, and this is what we call the path to proficiency. So it is a path that you're going to be going through. So as you see at the top, here's the start, and here's novice low, I use words. All right, novice mid, I use words and phrases. Moving to novice high, use some single sentences, going on through. And, at the advanced level then is when you really have a handle of the language, and you're able to have conversations and writing and reading, and you can put it all together. So that's basically a nice visual to show you the path to your proficiency. All right, it's time for a new adventure. I hope you guys are all ready to jump in and really learn French, because I have to say, the way we teach language now as opposed to what we did 5-10 years ago is much different. And I find my students have been doing so much better speaking and writing, and it's really working. So I think you're going to be quite surprised at how much of the language you're going to acquire this year just in 6th grade alone. All right. So that's all I have for you now. So what you're going to be doing for the remainder of the class period is you are going to finish up, if you haven't already, the Intro to France packet. So that packet is going to be due tomorrow. You're going to upload it to Schoology when you are finished, if you haven't already. And that's what you can work on for the remainder of the class. So you want to finish those pages. Okay? All right. So, au revoir, à bientôt, à demain.